Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla. Coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And I really felt tired today. I really did. I felt very, very tired. So, but interestingly enough, I'm kind of getting in the car. I feel like at the same time as yesterday, if not, I want to say like a minute or two earlier. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, but I did wake up feeling pretty tired. Like to me, it feels miraculous I even made it in here. Um, we still do have another full day to deal with. And I was thinking about it. That's really the issue. That's really the issue because the issue is, sorry, I'm like not really making sense right now. The issue is that even though it's just 2 long days, you actually end up with 3 stress nights and like three, yeah, because you have to go to sleep Sunday night into Monday because Monday is a long day. Although no, actually, I guess I take that back. All right, I'll just explain what I was going to explain, that you have 3 stress days because even though you only have 2 long days, you end up having to, even though Wednesday's a short day, it's still the morning of Wednesday. That's still rough. But technically, Sunday doesn't really count because Sunday is a day off. So you do still only have 2 rough days. I don't know if I really explained that well. And honestly don't know if I even care to really explain it further. So if you don't get it, that's on you now. I'm kind of fooling around. Um, but yeah, so no, it is only two. This is the first. This is the first of the rough days. But yeah, it's gonna be rough next week when I'm doing three. That's definitely gonna be rough. I don't know how I did it last week. I don't know how I'm gonna do it next week, but at least for this week, we got it's only 2 long days. And it's been a while since I've had that because when I have a day off, it changes things a lot. I think it makes it so that, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think when I have a day off, it makes it so that it's 3 long days each week. That's what I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think that's what ends up happening. In terms of myself, I haven't really had too much thoughts. I had a dream that was, I guess, sort of interesting. I was playing a video game with people that I thought was pretty fun. I think I've had that a lot, like where it's like I dream. I actually don't know if I may not have, I have probably mentioned it on this show before, but basically, since I don't know when, probably since I was a teenager, I think I've described this transition that overtook me where, I used to really be like a gamer. Like, I really liked video games as a thing to do. Like, I used to play them a lot. I had a DS Lite as a child, and I poured lots and lots of hours into that thing. But the thing is, once I got older, really it became like less of a thing that I really wanted to do. Um, I just, gaming in general, once I was introduced to the internet and like the idea of you're playing a game with your friends, the idea of just like playing a game by myself seemed like really stupid to me. Like the dopamine that was there before vanished, because now it's like, well, nothing compares to playing a game and talking to a person. You know what I'm saying? So that transition happened, and I started to find like my true hobby and my true passion, which really would just be socializing, period. That would be my true hobby and passion. And then second to that, is just like listening to content too, podcasts, YouTube. To me, that's like more fun than playing a game. Some kind of auditory stimulation, some kind of conversation. It became my new addiction. Um, but yeah, so I think that video games just stopped seeming like something that made any sense to me, because here was, you have two different activities. You have one which is open ended in nature. If you're listening to a podcast on YouTube, it can be productive, it can be entertaining, it can be fun, it can be dumb, it can be educational. There's so many possibilities as to what you want to do with your time. Whereas a video game always has an unproductive slant to it. You know, you're not really going to get much out of playing a game besides something that you can only talk to people who also play the game and have some kind of social connection that way. But I saw there being like, me calculating in my head a minimal reward to playing a game. That's what I calculated. And I think right off the bat, that kind of goes to show, most people, I don't think they ever even do that. Like if they have something that they enjoy, they just do what they enjoy, and, they play a video game because they want to play a video game, and like there's not really any thoughts about it. They may want to talk to people, they may want to not talk to people, but it's just like, it is what it is, right? So there's a difference there in terms of what I want and in terms of what other people want. It's due to some kind of hedonistic calculation. It's not really due to what I just immediately desired or wanted. And I understand that this isn't going to be applicable to everyone, but I am going to make a bit of a hot take that I've been thinking as my thoughts have been simmering over this entire time. And it's basically that I believe that many people play video games because they haven't really discovered what their passion is. And when you don't know what your passion is, a video game is like the most appealing thing in the world because it's something that accelerates downtime and doesn't really give you anything, but it helps pass the time and helps you maybe forget about the fact that you haven't found your passion or you haven't found your calling. It's something that's good enough, but not great. And I want to make clear that, I'm talking about when people use gaming as like a compulsive behavior as opposed to, I think there's plenty of people where, kind of similar to me, it's like I only play games when friends are around, you know, trying to play something with a friend. It's not a compulsive thing. I don't just like, play a video game. There's some days I don't even play any at all and I don't really think about it. Does that make sense? So, what I think happens is that in my case, once I've found my passion, which is speaking, I just know that I'd rather do that. It fits so much better. It's much more productive. For me to record like an hour-long tangent would be way more productive than me playing a video game for an hour. I don't really think there's much of a debate to that. I mean, we can get into how video games potentially adjust or help the brain. And in that sense, I actually agree and somewhat, and I'm a bit frustrated with myself because I do think when I played a lot of games, it did assist in my neurological development to some extent. So there is that potential benefit. I just personally like, I think that oftentimes is overstated and it really gets overshadowed by just like the sheer nonfiction and like productive education that simply just like listening to a podcast can provide. Like it's a lot, and a video game, like I said, it can't really compete. At least I don't think it can. Like everything has its pros and cons, but in my honest opinion, I don't think it's that crazy of an argument to say that it's probably a better use of your time to just like learn something than to play a game. Probably. But again, that definitely depends on the person and the circumstance. If you're like super good at this competitive game and, that's your calling and that's your passion, then it probably is a better use of your time. Right? That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, it really does depend on the person. It truly depends on the individual person. But what I'm saying is, I think most people, like, video games are not their passion. You know what I mean? Like, they're not particularly good at video games, and they use them as a way to distract from the human perceptive condition, which is what I was getting to. And actually, one of the scary things is that I don't know that everybody really has a passion. That's kind of the whole thing, is passion, I think, is only given to certain people. And I guess what I mean by that, maybe, because to clarify, I think significant passion or substantial passion would be a good word to or term to describe what I'm talking about, because anybody can have a passion in anything technically. You can have a passion of going outside and picking up rocks, right? But that passion is not going to yield very much, will it? So there is like there's an empirical analysis of your passion and there's a subjective analysis of your passion. Somebody whose passion is to rake leaves Now there's something that you could potentially make some extra money out of. I mean, of course, sounds kind of weird. I don't know if it's the best example, but I'm just like thinking of things on the spot. If you had a passion for raking leaves that has an empirical reward, it's not just like your own selfish thing. If you have a passion for watching YouTube videos, that's where it gets to the point where I don't know that everybody who does that, it's really a true passion for them. I think some people do it just because it's noise. It's just because they don't know what their actual calling is or their passion is. And the observation I'm thinking of and making right now is just that I think it's possible to conclude that not everybody has a passion. Not everybody has like some true aligned purpose. I think a lot of people are born into messy lives and messy situations and have messy personalities. And, you know, in my case, I actually thought I was one of those people. And I pretty much was for a very long time. Like, I think it took me until just about now to finally even get anywhere, I feel like. And so, of course, 2025 for me was like the beginning of that, where like I'm finally doing car rides with Schla, finally recording on a regular basis. But I still feel like that was almost like the prologue. You know, 2025 was the prologue. I still kind of feel like I'm in the prologue phase, even though I've been doing car rides with Schla for nearly a year now. Does that make sense? Like, it's like I figured out my passion, but I don't think my system, the way I live my life, is really set up to enrich and revolve around said passion. I still think I'm kind of in the beta testing stage. That's why I'm saying it's like the prologue. I mean, yeah, I've been doing it for a year, but, you know, to, I still want to get that better interface I was talking about, the better mic interface, and there's just all kinds of stuff like that that I'm trying to do. So, yeah, it's it's pretty interesting, like how so that's how I feel. I mean, I don't know if that's just like an over analysis of it, because it probably is, but that's what I'm saying, where it took me until my 20s for me to actually find it. And some of that, though, I actually criticize life and society for doing. I think that it's entirely possible that there is a alternate reality where I discovered my joy much sooner and really stuck with it. But given the nature of reality now, it's predatory. I think I've talked about this before, where we're starting to have issues where we're not really growing up fast enough. We're definitely not growing up as fast as our predecessors. And this is causing major problems because, you know, the average age that we're having a child is being pushed later and later, which fundamentally increases the rates of autism and other various issues, you know. So there's real world consequences for a society and a world that is not maturing at a proficient pace. There is a real consequence to that. There's a real consequence. And I think that there's an alternate reality where I really did figure it out and I made it. You know, I think it is. I think it exists. But this timeline, it's more about this longer, drawn out kind of pain and frustration, where I don't know why it took me this long to do this. I was like pursuing the wrong things. Like I was pursuing people and real friendships because I thought, and I still do believe that's like the key to happiness, but you know, it can't be a key to happiness if it's not getting reciprocated. So I've just dealt with a lot of people who they're not even remotely on the same like plane, when it comes to like awareness or it comes to all that kind of stuff. Like they're not aware. I think being paid attention is becoming the most sought after currency, for people to actually sit still and pay attention to something. It's becoming a luxury, it's becoming something sought after. I think other things used to be sought after, but in this day and age, it's definitely going to be attention. Certain people, their attention spans have been so deeply eroded that they can't engage in much productive things. And it changes the nature of conversation. It changes what conversation is even allowed or permitted culturally. I was actually thinking about this yesterday, when it comes to music, and as someone who's dabbled in making music, you always have that conundrum where it's like, if your music doesn't resonate with anybody else, then it's almost like it doesn't really exist or it doesn't really have real value. Like the real value in a good song is that it reaches people and people hear it and play it. And so it's a living experience. That's really the value in music. And I mean, you could make the best song ever, but if nobody ever listens to it, I don't, that's really not the best. It's not the best song ever. Like because nobody's going to think that. So I've always kind of thought about things that way. And then I've known people who it's like they do stuff and they just do stuff because they want to do it. They don't really mind or care if other people care for it or notice it or not. So there's definitely like two perspectives in that regard. I think. So I'm losing my train of thought. That's kind of a shame. I started thinking about other stuff. Random and less interesting thoughts than what I was talking about, for sure. So, yeah, that's a shame because I really liked what I was articulating. But I guess I'll just rewind back to the other thing I was talking about. How I think for the majority of people, video games and also just group like TikTok into this, anything that's like a noise. Although, of course, playing a video game is presumably better for the brain than TikTok, although of course there is some nuance to that because it definitely depends on the game and it depends on what you're watching on TikTok, I suppose. So there's some nuance to that, but the whole point is I think some people, they haven't discovered their true calling or their true passion or their true hobby, and so they really engage with these things like video games or TikTok because it it gives the illusion of what a hobby would be. Like you're not really actively engaged in anything, when you partake in these activities. You're engaged in something that isn't really there and that isn't really anything that's skill building or anything like that. And that's kind of what I was saying, where it's like I feel like many people don't have this like true calling, you know. I think some people, and probably most people, they they just don't, like, I don't know. I mean, life, it's complicated, it's tricky, it's really hard to find your place and where you can resonate, especially when, there might be other people that took your spot. In some cases, maybe you do have somebody who's skilled and capable, but somebody else is in a position that they should be in. I've talked about this before, you know, because maybe the other person looked better or had better social prowess, so then they ended up getting the job even though you would be a better fit for it. There's all kinds of things we could talk about in that regard. And I think especially in modern society, it's most difficult to find your purpose because modern society is extremely specialized and complicated, and you know, even in my own case, there's the threat of AI speaking, putting me out of business, and then it's like, what would I do with myself? I don't, I have no idea. But my calling may be something different. It's entirely possible, you know. It's not I kind of think like it could be whatever the next thing is after podcasts or something. That could really be when things are finally up to my speed. Or, thoughts being recorded and things like that. I think we could definitely see some interesting things emerge once thought recording is a thing, especially from myself. I think this is one of the most coherent morning episodes in a while. I think that is pretty interesting and noteworthy. I mean, I'm obviously starting to kind of lose my train of thought. Like I'm a little bit drowsy, so it's been a bit fragmented. At least that's how I feel. Like I kind of had to switch topics a little more than I would have liked to, and we didn't really finish a topic, but we did hit, the 30-minute. And really in the morning, I feel like things haven't been like all that great. So yeah, like usually the morning I'm just like very tired and very dead and like, all that usual stuff. So it's interesting that today, like, I just was able to pull it off. And see, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where I need to start to really think that way. Like, there's always tomorrow, there's always more time. It's not like my past work, I'm never going to be able to. I can't tell you how long I thought that my whole life. You know? Isn't that something? Like, I thought that, like, my whole life, that what if I had peaked at 15 or 16 and then I could never really get back to that point. And I still don't know that I, I have, but in some ways I'm obviously far past who I was then. So I guess it just depends on how you define it. I just think back then I really had more of a degree of like eccentricity, maybe. My throat's been feeling kind of scratchy, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. So that's another thing too. Like, I have a feeling I probably shouldn't even be like talking, because it just seems, and I should have been having my honey, but I'm not having the honey. I should have honey. I should be having honey. My honest opinion is in the winter I should be having honey before bed every night, but I just don't, like, I just lose sight of that. So hopefully next year I will do that, because this year I was planning on doing that and I'm not doing it because it's already February. And I think I've had honey maybe one or two nights so far this winter. But yeah, it's important for me because my throat, like, I gotta look into what, really good ways to take care of your throat, because it's so important to me. And when I mean, this isn't that bad. Like, I actually think my voice still sounds pretty normal, but I'm just saying, like, it's definitely something I should research and be aware of, because my throat is like everything to me. I mean, if I didn't have my ability to speak, I think that would be that'd be kind of crazy. So I should figure that out. I should just muscle through it and be more vigilant. Um, yeah, I don't really know what else. Yeah, I'm not sure what else. I'm not sure what else I was getting at there. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, for how tired I am, I'm very shocked that we actually had like a fairly substantial episode. I know there were some moments where, again, like I was switching around, but yeah, my sleep, it looked good. I think I only didn't get a 90 because I got like an 80 something. I think I only didn't crack 90 because the length was 7, and I think it likes to see 7.5. But yeah, I was just dealing with some stuff yesterday. But tonight should be better. I should be getting home from work earlier because from what it looks like, I might actually get to work sooner than yesterday, and I won't have to. So on top of that, I should be able to come home like a decent amount earlier. I don't want to get too optimistic, but I want to say, it literally could be like 10 minutes. Could be 10 or even like 15 minutes earlier than yesterday. So should be a better um night, a slightly better night. Should be calmer. Cause yeah, we're looking like we're fixing to be making a great time. So yeah, things are looking pretty good right now. I guess it depends on light luck, but yeah, we must have gotten out of the house like sooner. Like I thought, like 1 to 3 minutes sooner than yesterday, I think. Which is weird because it didn't even feel that way. Like, if anything, I felt like I got out sooner yesterday. So, that's kind of interesting. Oh, this light always gets me. But I think I'll make it through. Yep, I think that's good. Yep. Close though. Hate that light. All right. Yeah, I think we're gonna clock in earlier than yesterday. Yeah, it was a good drive in, honestly. I don't There wasn't much stress, which is a bit unusual. Like usually somebody's like driving crazy or something. Um But nope, today, yeah, we should be able to get home. I think it'll be a better night tonight. Because I honestly wouldn't be surprised if I can get home like 15 minutes earlier than yesterday, and that makes a world of a difference. It makes a world of a difference. All right. That was a good drive in. I think it really was a nice drive in. All right. Well, I think that it's just about binge schla, and it's just about time to buy schla. So, see you schla.